Insperity presents the Small Business Advocate Show with Jim Blasingame, brought to you by FedEx, CareerBuilder.com, and Palo Alto Software. This is a copyrighted production of Small Business Network, Inc., all rights reserved.
Welcome back. It's 12 after the hour. Thank you very much for joining me. Thanks for hanging out with me. My pleasure to continue to be with you. I'm Jim Blasingame, and you're listening to the Small Business Advocate Show. I'm glad you're here. I'm excited about having our good friend Nancy Rosanoff back on the show. Nancy is a longtime member of our Brain Trust. She is our intuition expert. And she's the author of The Complete Idiot's Guide to Making Money Through Intuition and Intuition Workout, and her outstanding television programs that she's produced over the years. She's our good friend, Dr. Nancy Rosanoff. Welcome back to the show.
It's great to be here, Jim. You know, when I heard you in the introduction, still harping on that idea that men don't have intuition.
No.
I'm saying men grow up and get over it.
No, I'm saying that women don't own the franchise on intuition.
Exactly. But men, I think they just don't like to talk about it. But I think men really use their intuition more than women, especially in business.
Oh, really? No, wait. Slow down a minute. Slow down a minute. I want to make sure we get this. I want to make sure we get this clear and on the record here.
Okay.
So what I said earlier,
because they'll take action. They'll take action.
What I was saying was that women don't own the franchise on intuition, but they probably practice it more than men do. And you're saying I was wrong about that?
I don't think that's necessarily true. Now, I think that actually, I think women do like to talk about it.
Yeah.
And of course, we're talking gross generalizations.
Yeah.
But
which is the most fun.
Which is the most fun, right? And probably the least effective. But men have a tendency to act on their intuition.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't.
Right?
But they don't
act
think of
on it. Women like to talk about it, and women are very good at telling other people. Say that again?
Guys don't think of it as intuition.
No, they don't. And that's okay. That's okay. And but it's still it would be important for them to get what would help them is to be able to discern the difference between a true intuition versus a what is often called a gut reaction or a reaction to something, or kind of a conditioned knee-jerk automatic response to something. It's based on their conditioning, and because that's not intuition.
Sometimes, you were talking about women like to talk about it more. And by the way, I want the record to show Nancy said that. I didn't say that. But but Nancy, one of the things I wonder is if women spend more time thinking of intuition as a state of being, and men are more likely to use it as a tool. What do you think about that?
Well, again, I'm uncomfortable making so many distinctions between men and women that way because I really think there's so much more crossover these days. But I would say you're right, is that those are two ways that we see often. Someone sees intuition as a state of being, and someone else sees intuition as a tool. I think that distinction is useful.
Well, the way I think that we can help both genders is by saying, okay, guys, maybe you should pause and take a breath and think about what got you to that decision that you're about to pull the trigger on, and maybe just give it another breath or another thought, or sleep on it one time. And ladies, maybe you need to quit sleeping on it an extra day and pull the trigger. What do you think about that, Nancy?
I think, sometimes that is. Now we have to look at, and behind that, what helps us discern that. I think you're right. That is to be mindful or ask the question, what is motivating me? Because that's really where we come down to what whether we're responding or taking action on a real intuition, or whether we're making something up or just seeing what we always see, right, and being lazy.
What is the connection between intuition and emotion?
Well, I think that when we're acting out of emotion is just a physiological feeling based on what we're thinking, right? So emotion
based on
is
what we
not
think
really
we're seeing.
related to intuition. Yeah, right.
And intuition is more learned. Intuition is more learned, isn't it?
Well, intuition is more inspired, I would say. It comes from a larger perspective. It comes from our capacity to be aware of a wholeness that we're a part of, right? So then we're allowing an inspiration to come through that is right for this situation. Is
inspiration similar to wisdom?
Yes, that's right.
It's it's closer to wisdom than emotion is, isn't it?
It definitely. I think emotion is always personal, and wisdom is always holistic, right, or universal.
Right.
We're never wise just to get what we want. Wisdom is really what's right for this situation.
Is it a good idea as a leader to say, okay, I feel like taking a step here. I feel like doing something, but is this a decision that I'm making? Is this step I'm about to take? Is it based more on emotion? Is it based more on intuition? Is it based more on what I've learned? Is it good to segment to try to get to the root of a decision we're about to make?
Well, of course. That's a beautiful thing to say, and that's exactly right. And what we can discern, well, how do we know that, right? How do we know when we have this urge to take an action? How do we tell whether this is based on kind of a motivation for greed or to get what I want or to get rid of somebody that I'm not happy with, or is it really the right idea? How do we know? And there is a way.
That would be all right. Tell us quickly what that way is.
Well, the way is we become aware of the qualities that go with it, right? That if when it's intuition, there's a sense of effortlessness, of flow, of peace, of clarity. Those qualities are going with it. And when there is, when we're motivated by kind of getting what we want, there's an agitation, there's a grind, there's sometimes a kind of personal satisfaction and pleasure. There's a sense of power. And we need to begin to discern the difference between all of those.
Well said. Nancy, give us your website, please.
It's Rosanoff.com. That's all, just my last name.
2 S's and 2 F's. Rosanoff. Dr. Nancy Rosanoff is our guest and our longtime friend, great member of our Brain Trust. She and I will be right back. And when we come back, Nancy's going to talk to us about intuition and leadership, or maybe lack thereof. 20 after. I'm Jim Blasingame. Stay with me.
Insperity presents the Small Business Advocate Show with Jim Blasingame, brought to you by FedEx, CareerBuilder.com, and Palo Alto Software. This is a copyrighted production of Small Business Network, Inc., intended for the private use of our audience. Except as otherwise provided by copyright law, all other copying, redistribution, or publication without prior written consent is prohibited. All rights reserved. Prohibited. All rights reserved. Prohibited. All rights